Let's give a warm welcome for Rick Czaplewski.
Thank you. Yeah, Lambo. Who remembers that commercial? I'm local, folks. I'm from Milwaukee. Great to be here. Huge honor, huge Packers fan. And let me tell you, it didn't start the way I thought it was going to. And it started very innocently. I was a new project manager, new company, new position. I got my first project. I met my counterpart, and he said this: "Could I have some extra manuals?" And I'm a good project manager, so I said, yes. A few weeks later, he said, "Well, could I have some extra spare parts? We ran out." And I'm a good project manager, so of course I said, yes. And then a few weeks later, "Rick, you know what? Our technician is late to the site. Can you keep your technician out here an extra week for the startup to make sure it goes smoothly?" And I'm a good project manager, so I said, yes. And then things started to get a little ugly. "Rick, you know what? You owe us $500. We had a problem with your parts." Okay. "Now you owe us $1,000. Now $5,000. Now $10,000. And I know what you're thinking, right? This guy's got to be a Bears fan. Worse, he was from New Jersey. And that's when the straw broke the camel's back. This was the reverse auction from hell. And I said, "I don't owe you $10,000. You owe me $15,000. No, you owe me $20,000, $25,000, $30,000. And then things went from really bad to nuclear meltdown level. Did I mention this was a wastewater treatment plant and this was a contractor? Well, somebody on that job site, not related to our company, went onto the site and pushed some buttons on the control panel, and 250,000 gallons of raw sewage erupted and flowed into the stream next to the plant. You can imagine what happened next. Shore pickups, booms and dredging. The EPA was involved. It was a total nightmare. After 18 months of very aggressive negotiating, 4 parties, my company, this contractor, a consulting engineer, and the city, went to binding mediation. And it was, "You owe me $1 million, no $2 million, no $3 million. And we had a school bus full of lawyers there, to help us through everything. And finally, after a long week of this discussion, the mediator said, "You know what? We are going to split this pot in 4 equal parts. Everybody gets 25%, and we're done with this." I took that back to my company, and I felt, dang, that was just not the outcome I was looking for. The negotiation skills I had here, we did not owe that much money in this situation. Our company was happy to walk away from it, but I knew I had to do better. I knew I had to have negotiation skills as a project manager that not only put the project's interests first, but to put the relationships ahead as well. And I didn't have that. So I started to teach project management negotiation. It started within my companies that I work for, and then I broke out on my own. And I work with PMI organizations like this. And in working with folks like yourself, a project management negotiation gone bad like that, what do you guys think are the 3 things that hold project managers back from good negotiation? What are your thoughts? Feelings? Okay, what else? Fear? Confidence? Well, you don't want to hurt the relationship. You guys are really good. I've asked well over 1,000 people, CEOs, project managers, executives, what is your biggest weakness in negotiation? And these 3 things came up, and you named 2 of them. Number 1 is, I'm scared to do it. I'm afraid. I don't want to look stupid. I don't want to lose. I don't want to hurt the relationship with the person on the other side. I don't want to make them mad. I don't want you to be mad. I'm just going to say yes. Little do you know that if you're doing that, like I was doing in my situation, you're grooming the person on the other side. The next one is feelings or emotion. I don't want to be in that heightened state, like, I'm revved up, I'm going to negotiate now, I don't really like this, but this is part of my job. People don't want to be in that state, so they avoid it altogether. And then the third one is, I'm just not that good at it. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't have a good style. I don't have a good series of tactics. I'm not sure what to do. So we're going to tackle these problems today. I'm going to teach you a model that will make you a more confident and more effective negotiator, looking at steps before and after we actually sit down at the bargaining table. And we're also going to go through some negotiation tactics to make you more effective tomorrow when you go back to your job as a PM. All right, I want to hear from you folks. What are you negotiating? Yell it out. 4 words or less, what are you negotiating? Resources. Timelines? Budget? These are all great. I see somebody nodding right here. What do you got for me? Yeah, you. Roles? All right. Goals? Scope. Oh, yeah, scope. I think everybody in here is probably negotiating scope. Anything else? Contracts? Good. These are all excellent examples of project manager negotiations. What you're looking at here is a chart that is breaking up those negotiations into 3 categories. At the top of the chart, you see the word collaborative, and at the bottom, you see the word contested. The higher up this chart, the more important the relationship with your counterpart is. That can be your customer, it can be your team, your managers, your resource managers, your stakeholders. It can be third parties. Those relationships are not as important towards the bottom, contested. There, the result matters more. What happens in that outcome is more important than the relationship as a result of that. And those fall into 3 bands. You'll notice the negotiations that everybody yelled out, scope, contracts, resources, etc., which band did those fall in? What's your guess? I'll give you a hint. 2, role negotiations. A lot of project managers skip number 1. Those are joint negotiations. A joint negotiation is where we meet for the first time. Nice to meet you. I want to bring my relationship closer with you as my primary stakeholder. I'll give you a quick script that you can use as a project manager. Hello, my name is Rick. You can use your own name. I'm going to be your project manager. Here's my contact information. I'm really looking forward to working with you. Hit send. That's it. If you're doing that, you are starting off your project, you're priming your counterpart, you're creating a relationship, you're kicking it off on a very positive footing. A lot of folks don't do that. They skip joint negotiations, those small opportunities for you to tighten the relationship. A relationship is an outcome of a negotiation. Now the middle one, I think we're all experts at this. Scope, schedule, cost, contracts, risk, etc. Those are role negotiations. As PMPs, as PMs, we all roll into work in the morning, pour a cup of coffee, and we start negotiating. All of those things are role negotiations. If you mess up one of those negotiations, all is not lost. You could probably make it up. There's some trade-offs in this band. That's okay. You got to win the bulk of them. You got to win the majority of them. And good project management skills, good communication, good organization, and a take-action attitude in band 2 will make you an effective negotiator. And number 3 are fight negotiations. Anybody have one of those? Anybody want to admit it? Something went wrong. Whose fault is it? Not mine. Where I used to work, they called this the Siemens salute. Your fault. No, it's your fault. No, it's your fault. A fight negotiation is something is materially, significantly wrong. Both parties are considerably at odds, and the relationship is no longer important. That's a must-win. You've got to drive that result. So we're going to talk about skills that fit in all 3 of these bands. When you guys hear the word negotiation, what comes to mind? Yell it out. What do you hear? When I say the word negotiation, what do you think of? Compromise? A lot of compromises. What else? Conflict? Solutions. Okay. Uncomfortable, no doubt. These are very common answers. A lot of times when you look at this model, what you're describing is the yellow band on this model. Advocate, the bargaining step. Conflict, bargaining, haggling. That's what most people say when they think of negotiation. Well, I'm going to introduce this to you. It's called the OPERATE model. And OPERATE is an acronym, because we need one of those. And it starts with your outcome. This model starts with your outcome in mind. In a negotiation, ask yourself, what am I trying to do here? I'm trying to put myself and my project in a better position. What outcome am I looking for? That's made up of 2 things. It's made up of your results, scope, schedule, cost, cash flow, inventory, whatever that looks like. Those are hard business results. And on the other side of that, it's a relationship. What relationship do I want to have with my counterpart? Is this an important counterpart? Is this somebody that we want to expand business with, we're going to do business with in the future? Is this more transactional? Is this a divestiture? Folks, I got to introduce you to somebody, and that's my former boss, Brian. Brian was a gunslinger, you know, like Brett Favre. Some of you guys got that one. He would roll into work, he would pick up a phone, and he would immediately start negotiating with suppliers. Hang up the phone, pick it back up, call somebody else. He would do this all day long, and he called it dialing for dollars. And on the outside, people looked at this guy and said, wow, this guy's a great negotiator. Brian, go get him. But he left a lot on the table. He didn't consider his outcome. He didn't consider some of the other steps in this model. We're going to deconstruct that a little bit. If you're that type of negotiator, and frankly, it's very tempting to be the person who just, I'm going to take care of it, I'm going to pick up the phone and put this to rest. If you're doing that, shooting from the hip, you're leaving stuff on the table. Let's go further. The next step of the model is your own personal style. Your personal style is what you're putting out there, how you manage projects. And from there, we get into the environment. I've got two names for the environment. Number one, it's the win-win zone. And number two, it's the corner-cutting zone, because the environment is something that not everyone considers. So we'll talk a little bit about that in a few moments. The green band is readiness, preparation. We're getting ready to negotiate. There is no negotiation without preparation. There are no knee-jerk negotiations. Getting yourself, your counterpart, your business case, all of those things ready, we're going to do that in readiness. Now you'll notice Brian, who was just picking up the phone, he was doing none of those things. Wasn't getting ready, didn't know what he wanted, and his personal style was the ambush style. I'm just going to call and see what I can get. I'm going to surprise him. But what he did was he trained those folks. Much like that opening story where that guy was grooming me, Brian was teaching his counterparts that if they withstood his initial shock and awe, they were the ones getting the good deal. At long last, we've put a lot of work into this. We are now at the advocate step. We are ready. Our feelings are in check. We're gung-ho for this. We also feel confident going into this negotiation because we've done the work to get there. Now we can deploy some negotiation tactics, our project manager presence, our executive presence, and have the negotiation. But hold on. There's one more step. We're not done. I thought we had a deal. I was going to do this. You were going to do that. You don't remember this? No? Selective amnesia? No, what happened here? Forgot to write it down. We didn't close it. The end represents the closure of negotiation. A lot of negotiators walk away after the yellow step and forget to close. No change order, contract amendment, MPA, even an email back and forth. That is the final step. It might not surprise you that when Brian left the company and we had to go back to all of the suppliers that he contacted and say, what did you agree with Brian? I don't remember. We didn't agree with anything. He didn't write anything down. The point of this model is when you follow these steps, you're going to have excellent outcomes. And when you complete the end, it's time to go to the next thing. You've done a good job. Let's take a deeper look. Let's talk about personal style. Personal style. All right, I got a question for you. We're going to take this one from the audience. If we were to do business together, what one word do you have that would describe how you do business? You get one word. What do you have? What one word? Is what? Direct. Okay. Okay, that's all good. What else? What word comes to mind when we do business together? Honest. What else? Relationships? Integrity? You're smiling. What do you got? You got a good one. Fairness? No, I mean behind you. What did he say? Transparent. Those are decent, right? These are good words. A lot of times when I ask this question to an audience, they say words like partnership, relationship, integrity, trust, those types of things. Not joking, folks. I asked this question to a group of CEOs once, and somebody said, tooth and nail. Who wants to do business with a tooth and nail guy? What do you think that person gets back when they're communicating in a business setting? Resistance. The nail. Yeah, somebody's got the hammer, right? Crickets. I don't know what's worse, if you've got teeth or nails, to use a hammer on either of those. But yeah, whatever you're going to put out there, those words, you're going to be getting back. This is the foundation of the negotiation operate model. The foundation of the operate model is your personal style. I'm a cancer survivor. What I think my personal style is take action. And the reason is I learned when I was 19 years old that life is pretty doggone short. If you're not getting on top of it now, you might not be able to. So if you've got a bucket list out there, folks, go after it. Go tackle those things. That's your personal style. The next is the environment. Now, I call this both the win-win zone and the corner-cutting zone. A lot of folks miss this. The environment is where you're setting up mutually beneficial partnerships, good relationships with your customer, with your counterpart, with your target, whatever that looks like, you do it here. And as project managers, we are all on the front lines of doing this for our company. The customer experience you're delivering, whatever type of project that you have, that is exactly what your company is going to be benefiting from. And a lot of folks focus solely on the result in the finish line that they miss establishing a relationship. There's several ways to do this. Social proof is a good one. Being easy to work with and being responsive. Those aren't just table stakes. Those are advantages for you. But my favorite one comes from this fellow right here. You'll notice a younger version of me on here, standing next to the CEO of a $750 million electronics manufacturing firm located in Hsinchu, Taiwan. He had a huge factory in China. This gentleman's name is Simon. Simon, every time I came to Asia, would say to me, "Rick, you are my best friend. You are my best friend. You are my best friend." You can tell by the pose, the style, his smile, the quality of the restaurant. He meant it. I was his best friend. I used to work for Hewlett-Packard, and we had a lot of product made in China. And you can imagine that there are a lot of companies like the one he ran that wanted that business. So he treated me like a best friend. He did the personal things. When I flew to Hong Kong, if I had to go to China, he would have a car waiting for me to drive over the border and bypass several hours of customs. He also allowed me to use his personal driver to go sightseeing in major cities. But the number one thing he did was he took great care of me. Part shortages, capacity ramps, software problems, more testing, ramp-ups, goods stuck in a port in China. Those are not easy things for us to manage domestically in the United States. He did all of those things like that, 24 hours. He was my best friend. Let me ask you this, folks. Is it easy to walk away from a best friend who's doing that? No. It's very difficult to walk away from that. He created what's called the sunk cost fallacy. The sunk cost fallacy means you've invested something, and it's harder to walk away from that. And when you're acting like him, it's much harder for somebody like Hewlett-Packard with a gigantic wallet to walk away from someone like him, even though there's plenty of competitors, lower prices, etc., to do that. What can you do in your business? This is something I want you to think about after the session. What can you do in your business, in your role, to establish a partnership, to be the best friend of the people that you're dealing with, so it's more difficult to walk away not only from you, but from your company? When you're doing that right, you're creating a serious competitive advantage for yourself, and that makes you a great negotiator. We spend time in the win-win zone because if you do this well, you're going to get better results down the road from somebody who's calling you your best friend. Now, the next step is readiness. There is no negotiation without preparation. There are no knee-jerk negotiations. Readiness is gearing up for negotiating. I need to feel ready to negotiate. For those of you who are here saying, you know what, I don't feel confident, this is a highly charged emotional situation, you're not alone. It's tough. You have to feel ready. You have to do those things to prepare for a negotiation. And the more time you spend getting your business case together and your talking points, the better you will do in your negotiation. You also want to make sure your counterpart is ready. Going back to my boss, Brian, none of his counterparts were ready. So none of his deals were really that great. If you have a serious thing to negotiate in your projects, you want to make sure that you and your counterpart are both ready to get that deal to the finish line. Let's talk about business case. Let's talk about business case. I want to ask you this question, folks. Did anybody ever hear the term leverage in negotiation? You heard this? I'm seeing a lot of nods. What does that mean? What is leverage? Buying power? What else? Advantage? Anyone? Two people? How about in the back? Back table. Best outcome? Next. Okay. Next best outcome. Something somebody wants? What'd you say? Yeah. I can define leverage in one word. One word. Influence. It's influence. It's something I know, something I can do, something I could say, something I could not do to get you, a decision maker, to make a decision. Wouldn't that be great as a project manager if we knew how to make people make decisions on our behalf to put ourselves in better position? Would you guys be interested in that, learning how to do that? Holy cow. We don't participate to be cheesy. We participate to become part of the experience, and you're going to remember the information better. Anybody here want to learn how to do leverage? Yeah, there we go. I love it. Okay, here's 4 great sources for you, and you can use the acronym DEAL. Number 1 is deadlines. End of the month, end of the period, end of the quarter, quotas, tax filing deadlines, and in this crowd, all of those timelines in your schedules. The owner's schedule. Deadline leverage, time leverage is possibly your strongest chip. You can speed up, slow down, you can hold payment, you can make payment, you can accelerate. Those types of things. When time is on your side, when you're in the right, you can adjust your pacing to get the other side to make a decision. Now, if you did something wrong and you're slowing down and you're in a salvage situation where, you know what, we goofed up, but I'm going to try to get the money out of these guys, so we're going to slow down a little bit and kind of see what happens here. If you're doing that, you're playing with fire, because then we're talking penalties, damages, etc. So if you're going to use time leverage, you got to make sure that you are in the right, that you are not personally on the clock. A good example of this is, let's imagine the University of Wisconsin Green Bay wants to build an engineering building. And they hire a contractor like Michaels, and they also hire an electrician to work on this building. And these two parties start work, and they get into a fight in the middle of this project. Does UWGB care who's right or who's wrong in this situation? Do they care? All right, yell out yes or no. Do these guys care? No, they don't, right? They want their building open on September 1st when the engineering students come back. Therefore, when those two parties start working towards that deadline, one of them, whoever is in the right, has some serious firepower leverage to make the other make a decision. You don't want to be the company that's on the wrong side of that equation in your project. That's deadline leverage. The next is expertise leverage. I used to work for a company that manufactured wastewater treatment equipment. And we had people who worked for us called process engineers. A process engineer is a world-leading expert in both biology and chemistry. If a wastewater treatment plant all of a sudden can't process wastewater, they can't treat it properly, that's going to be a serious environmental infraction. The EPA will be their major penalties. You can imagine if something happened, that type of customer would be dying for that kind of expertise. That is also leverage that you hold in your businesses. Those things that you know, your intelligence, your IP, expertise leverage is also something where you can get somebody to make a decision. They can accelerate, they can pay you, they can move forward in a contract. Those process engineers that were in our building, we put a fence around them. They had serious gatekeeping. No names or no phone numbers and no emails on their business card. And you couldn't just directly call them, because if you could reach them directly, their phones would be ringing off the hook. We leverage the heck out of that. So if you have experts on your projects, you can deploy those experts and use that as a bargaining chip as well. The next one is advantage leverage, and this is the one I think everybody thinks about. I used to work for Hewlett-Packard. I used to work for Siemens. Those are gigantic world, like Fortune 20 beasts of companies. Because they have so much money, they can throw their weight around all over the world. But if you don't work for a company of that size, if you're working for somebody smaller, maybe you're dominant in a region but not nationwide, advantage leverage means what can you do better or differently than your competition? What can you do as a project manager to bundle services, to provide project management expertise? What can you do differently than someone else? That gives you an advantage. I'll give you an example from the small medium business world. One of my clients is an auto parts manufacturer, and they make parts for the big three. And the CEO said to me, we want to be the Tiffany's or the Apple of fuel injectors. Like, what do you mean by that? We said, once a year, we are going to do a limited release of our high-performance fuel injector for funny cars, for muscle cars, big trucks, and stuff like that. Okay, well, what happens? He says, well, once a year, we do like a bourbon release. People come to the factory, they line up outside the building, and we sell them the parts right out of the factory. And people are dying for this. It's like releasing a new iPhone, but it's a fuel injector. This part is like 1% to 2% of their total revenue, a minuscule part of their product line. But because the customer, the public values that part so much, their brand has turned into something significant. You can do this as a project manager by bundling what you do individually, your own personal brand, and use that as advantage leverage over your competition. The final one is legitimacy leverage. Yes or no, has anybody here ever had a customer come back to them and tell you, you owe me something, but you did not do something wrong or you disagreed with it? Did that ever happen to you, yes or no? Ooh. Very quiet yes. Let's try it again, yes or no? Yeah, all the time in project management. You owe me. You did something wrong. You were 2 days late, here's $1 million back charge or claim or something. Oh, you're 3 days late on a software release. We're totally out of business now, right? Obviously, these types of claims are exaggerated. Legitimacy leverage is checking that this really happened. Did this happen? Is it in the contract, number one? If it's in your contract and you can go back and point to a right to cure clause or some type of performance language, all of a sudden you have legitimacy leverage. The other one is going and validating that this actually took place in the field. We once had, I was working in a construction project and our equipment gets cemented into place. A contractor took our equipment, put it in, they used cement, and instead of cementing it into place, they filled all of our equipment up. It's supposed to be like channels or some channel equipment. They filled it up. So they called me up and said, you owe me several $1 million. Why? Well, your instructions were wrong for the concrete. Now it's all filled up. I'm like, well, we weren't even there. Yeah, but we followed your description to the letter. We used your concrete exactly. We did everything, and look what happened. Okay. As a good project manager, I sent somebody to the job site to check this out, right? I'm sure this is hitting home with some of you construction folks. Sent somebody to the job site. Our inspector was there, and he was walking around with an inspector from the city. And the city inspector said, that's a red cement mixer. Our guy's like, yeah? He goes, well, last week it was yellow. Oh, what happened? We started to do some investigating. We found out the yellow mixer had an attachment that overmixed the concrete, creating a serious flow problem which filled up the basin. Now, they didn't tell us that when they told us they had a problem, that they overmixed it. They didn't tell us that they switched out the mixer, but because we believed in legitimacy validation, we sent somebody there and found that out. That became the piece of leverage that we had to pay $0 in that claim because we were not at fault. If you're in this type of situation as a project manager where somebody's making a claim, validate the legitimacy, and we'll determine if it works. Okay, let's take a quick break and we'll revisit exactly where we are now. Number one, we started with the outcome in mind, the results in the relationship. We talked about your personal style, that one word. We talked about the win-win zone, creating relationships in the environment. And now we just went through leverage. We've gotten ourselves ready. We've done the work. We've talked leverage. At long last, it is time to sit down at the table and negotiate. One of the most effective negotiation tactics that you can have as a project manager is your negotiation style. And this style that I would advocate is called neuroeconomics. Neuroeconomics is a mix of behavioral psychology and behavioral economics. Behavioral psychology has been made very popular by law enforcement negotiators. In famous books, former FBI or hostage negotiators, it's the art of reading someone. I'm looking at you, you're kind of moving your head, you're smiling, she's lying. We're not going to be able to do that here today. That kind of training to be that good to read body language to that level requires several months of FBI training. Now, on the other side of neuroeconomics is behavioral economics, or the neuroscience behind getting somebody to say yes, getting someone to make a decision, stimulating urgency in someone. If you follow these 5 steps, you're going to be able to do this the next day. And it starts off with priming. Priming is entering into a conversation on a positive or negative note, how you want to do it. Definitely a positive note for project managers is a huge benefit for you. Let's go back to Todd. You'd read the introduction. Todd, what were those 2 words that you read right in the middle of that? Good news. Good news! Good news, folks! Rick is here. Yeah, this guy's pretty good. It's going to be fun. I primed you guys through Todd. It was great. What if you enter your discussions with, hey, good news. I got something to tell you. Oh, good news. You know what? We're going to ship by the end of the month. Meanwhile, your date might be the 25th. You can buy yourself some time by using positive priming. Now, let's take a look at what this looks like on the other side. Has anybody ever said to you, we've got to talk? Or how about this one? You're not going to like this one. Yeah? That one hurts, doesn't it? When has anything positive ever happened after that? No, if you enter a conversation with good news or on a positive footing, you're setting yourself up for success. Imagine you've been at it with one of your counterparts in project management for a while, and you come up to them and say, you know what, I know we've been talking about this for a while. I think I got a way out of this. That's music to my ears. Oh, finally, we don't have to argue. What do you got for me? That's how you do priming. The next is framing. Framing is reiterating that your idea is a good one. Hey, this is going to be a great deal for you. You know what? I've got something I think we both are going to like. You know what? We came up with something. It might not be exactly what you want. It's not what we want either, but I think we both can agree on this. That's framing. Framing is like your favorite cooking spice. Let's imagine you have a beautiful, juicy steak. You put it on the grill. You put a little bit of salt on it. You serve that. Tastes delicious. Now imagine instead you dump the entire container of salt on the steak and eat that. That tastes awful. That's like framing. You know what? I got a deal for you. You're going to love this. Your boss is going to love this. Your whole team's going to love this. You've been waiting for this. I know it's exactly what you want. I can't wait for you to hear this. That's too much. Hey, I got something I think you're going to appreciate, or something we can work with. That's all you need to do in framing. The next one is anchoring. Anchoring is a neurostimulus designed to pull a counterpart in your direction. A lot of time this looks like numbers. This can also be behavioral. One of my favorite stories was there was a sign on a wall. I went to a construction trailer and it said, "There's nothing cheaper than being done," on the wall, signed by the CEO. That company wanted to be done with the project. They didn't want to sit there and haggle over nickels and dimes. They wanted to be done because being finished with a project is more profitable than dragging it out and trying to claw back money in the middle of it. When you see things like this, those are anchors. From there, we go to risk aversion. Risk aversion means, I'm going to introduce risk. This might not work today. You know what? I've got an offer for you. I've got this approved. If I have to go back and renegotiate this, it's probably going to fall apart. let's just make this work. Introducing deadlines, timeline risk, something that is going to make it disappear. That is risk aversion. And then the final one is, let's make it easy. Make it easy. Have your approvals done. If you need a manager's approval, your CEO's approval, if somebody on your team needs your approval, have your ducks in a row. The worst thing you can do at the end of a negotiation is say something like, whew, we've worked really hard on this thing. I know, thanks for your time. I'm going to go back and see if this is okay with everybody. If you do that, your entire deal is going to fall apart. Let's take a deeper dive into one of these, and that's anchoring. Folks, I'd like you to meet a friend of mine, and this is Liao. Young guy, great hair, nice guy. You're looking at the king of anchoring right here. When I used to do business in Asia, one of my favorite things to do was to buy counterfeit watches. You know, like Folexes, Fomegas, right? They'd fall apart on the airplane, those types of things. And this gentleman, Liao, sold really high quality counterfeit watches. So I went there, and the first time I met him, I picked one out of the case that you see there, took a look at it, and I said, this looks like a winner. He said, okay. I said, how much? And he types 1,000 into that calculator you see me holding. 1,000. 1,000 US dollars for a counterfeit watch. I'm like, Liao, you're crazy. I can't do that. That's expensive. So we went back and forth. I typed in a lower number. He typed in another one. And back and forth we went, ha, 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 ha. And I ended up paying $50 for the watch. I thought, wow, great deal. I paid $50. I started at 1,000. This is excellent. The next day, I went and visited my friend Simon, who you met, and I said, hey, Simon, I just bought a watch. He goes, oh, yeah? What'd you pay for that? $50. Ha, 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 you got ripped off. Ha, ha, ha. You're a foreigner. Got people in the back laughing at me. I felt terrible. Well, how much should I have paid? $30. Now I know. Okay, he got me. So the next time I got smart. I went back in to see Liao. I went on the Rolex website, and I printed off a watch that I wanted, and I handed him the printout when I got there. And he said, we have to get that out of the warehouse. And he sent somebody to go grab it. Now, meanwhile, he and I are standing in a shop like that, and a group of American tourists walk in, and they're like, we are interested in a watch. They pick one out of the case. They said, okay, I'll take it. He types in 1,000 into the calculator. They go back and forth. Ha, 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 this is a lot of fun. How much do you think they paid for that? Not 1,000. 30. How much do you think these folks paid? $500! $500 for a fake watch. If he would have anchored me at 200, he might have gotten 50. He anchors them at 200. He leaves 300 on the table. That is the power of anchoring. All you have to do is see a number, and it's unrelated to anything you're doing, and your brain immediately is being pulled in that direction. Anchors are designed to create the two worst words in negotiation: insufficient adjustment. Now, if you're sitting there thinking, well, how do I know? I'm looking at an anchor. I'm going to give you the advice that Nobel Prize winning economist Daniel Kahneman would give you. Treat every number as an anchor. If you're getting back big back charges, big claims, what have you, take the time and go back and rebuild that cost model, what they've done. Validate the hours worked, validate the amounts paid for equipment, for materials, whatever that looks like in your neck of the woods, validation is key. Treat every number as an anchor and avoid insufficient adjustment. I believe there are two words in the English language that are the most difficult for project managers to say. And those two words are yes and no, for different reasons. And some of you are really good at saying no. And others of you are really good at saying yes, but you're not good in the other way. Let's talk about the art of saying no first. The art of saying no is rooted in something called prospect theory. This is something, we all know what this feels like. It feels like loss versus win. The intensity, that feeling of when you lose is so much stronger than the pleasure of when you win. Imagine you go interview for a job. You walk through all the steps. You meet with the manager, multiple rounds of interviews. They're looking, you submitted documents and tests and everything. And at the end of that, they're like, congratulations, you've got the job. And you're like, well, yeah, I'm the best candidate. Look how far you took me. I talked to people for months for this. And imagine you go through the same process and you get that form letter. Thank you very much for applying for this job. We regret to inform you that we have decided to go, then you're like, what do you mean? I put in all the work. I did all that stuff. I got good feedback. That difference in feeling is prospect theory. When you say no to a client, when you say no to someone, you want to avoid starting that set of dominoes to get somebody who wants to extract revenge or get that back at a later point in time. 2 easy ways to say no, and one comes right from Chris Voss, is the phrase, how am I supposed to do that? This phrase, if you've ever read his book, is so famous, I call it the John 3:16 of negotiation. If you ever hear somebody say, how am I supposed to do that to you, all you have to say back is, haha, yeah, you read the book too, even if you didn't. However, you can take a derivative of this and be very effective as a project manager. How am I supposed to X when Y? How am I supposed to deliver you parts next week when the lead time is 2 months? How am I supposed to get somebody on site tomorrow when you didn't give me notification until this morning that something was wrong? Introduce the logistics back to them. How am I supposed to do whatever it is when here's the consequences? Another great way to say no is the old if-then. I hear what you're saying, customer, but if we do that, if we make all these changes to the software, then that's going to add like 2 months to the test cycle. And you wanted this stuff done at the end of May. You sure you want to do that? If blank, then these are the consequences. You want to work your way down until ultimately the final step in saying no is no. Look, we've talked a lot. I've tried to work with you. We can't do that. We just can't do it. That's your last resort. You want to make sure that it is the last resort. You don't want to get stuck optimizing everything and saying no, but you want to make sure that you're not triggering that cycle. If you can't get somebody over the hump with those types of techniques, then you have to drop the plain no at the end. That's the art of saying no. On the other side of this, and I put a little bit more content in this one for you guys to see, is the art of saying yes. Some people say no all the time. There's no way we're doing that. This is exactly what's in the contract. We have a literal interpretation. We're not giving you 1 extra penny. That's gold plating. Can't do it. Okay, take a step back. If this is you, number one is your ego in control. When I work with CEOs, a lot of times they do not want to give up 1 penny because I'm not giving it to that company. All right, is that long-term win for you if you're acting like that? Take a step back here. Is your ego in control? If you question that ever, ask your team. Ask your team, am I drinking the Kool-Aid here? Am I off base? What do you think about this position? Just ask. They'll tell you. The next one is the concept of satisficing versus optimizing. I'm a CPA, so when I look at financials, I want every dollar, I want round numbers, I want it to be perfect. It's just part of my personality. If you're doing that, you're leaving money on the table. You're dragging things out. You're fighting over the last 5% with 80% of your effort. If you're in that bucket, don't do it. This is good enough. We're going to get them next time. We're going to build a bigger customer. We're going to get something later. This is a trade-off. No problem. We're going to say yes and move ahead. And obviously, it has to do with the relationship as well. And finally, if you have to give now, can you win later? If any of you are in sales, this looks like, okay, we're going to win at a lower margin today, get the foot in the door, show what we can do. Then we have a little more leverage. We have social proof leverage. We have advantage leverage here. We're going to get more money later. These are the ways to say yes. The opposite of the prospect theory is the optimization trap, which means I'm trying to make something so perfect that I'm not making progress any longer. Progress in this case is better than perfection. We're getting towards the end, pun intended, folks, and we're at the last step. We are now at the last step. A lot of project managers have stopped at this point. We got an agreement. It feels so good. Oh, at long last, we're done. They agreed. You tell your management or whomever, and now we're on to something else. We forget about this. The end is a critical step. This is the close step, and it looks like this. If you have an indication from the person on the other side that they agree, you want to take off your negotiator hat And you want to come over here, and you're putting on your closer hat. We're done now. Now you are moving them to close, to get it on paper. Just politely thank the other party. Hey, you know what? This has been a tough negotiation. Thanks a lot for your time. Really appreciate it. I'm going to get that contract over to you. Always take the opportunity to document the conclusion and put it on your paper, because then that also serves as an anchor for them to claw back out of your business terms versus vice versa. And from an economy of scale standpoint, it's a lot easier to manage your paper versus several other companies' papers. I once had a project manager who worked for me say, "Oh my God, I can't believe we got this. Thank you so much. This is awesome." That's not how you do it. No, instead, just be cool. Hey, thanks a lot, appreciate that, and close it off. And then when you're done, move forward, be done. Don't be one of those companies that said, "Well, in 2006, I gave you some." Okay, I wasn't even born yet. Like, I get it. Move ahead. If you lose here, move forward, and you're good to go. Folks, a lot of times people ask me as a negotiation trainer, what's the toughest negotiation that I've ever been in? Well, it goes like this. I was a junior at the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire. Any blue golds here, by the way? Yeah, all right. Good to see you guys. I was a junior at UW-Eau Claire, and I was diagnosed with cancer. Now, it's my opinion that in life, if something like this happens to you, something really bad, the rest of life should just park to the side so you can deal directly with your issue. But as we all know in life, that's not how it works. You don't get what you want, you got to negotiate it. And in this case, what I wanted to negotiate was taking an online geology class while I had to drop out of college and get chemotherapy. So I went into the dean of students and I said, "Excuse me, sir, my name is Rick, I'm a junior here, and I was just diagnosed with cancer. I need to drop out of college and get chemotherapy. Could I please take this online geology class, keep working on my degree?" And he said, "What? Are you kidding me? This doesn't happen to people your age. That's not in the manual. All right, let me see. You got a description or something I can read about this?" I said, "Okay, here you go." So he's, "All right. No, I can't approve this. That would be against the rules." You kidding me? I said, "All right." So I walked out. I went in the hallway. I didn't leave the building right away. I was crying. And I was looking down the hall, and I'm like, you know what? There's nobody here. I got to figure out what to do. And a lot of times in business, you're alone, and you got to make a decision like this. And that's where I was at 19. This guy was in his 50s, like my age now. I can't imagine treating somebody like this. And as I stood there, I thought, you know what? I can fight for myself. I can fight for this, or I can pack it in. But how am I going to beat cancer if I can't go back in there, take on a situation like this? And that's what I think about as a project manager, as a negotiator. It's that moment. We can talk about tactics. We can talk about the operate model, and those are extremely effective for you. But when it comes down to it, the ability to go into a tough situation and try to convince somebody to say yes, that self-advocacy piece, that unwillingness to give up, well, folks, that's your secret sauce. So I went back in there and I said, "Sir, I'm back. I think there's been a mistake." And he goes, "Ha, mistake? We don't make those." "What do you mean a mistake?" "Well, I could be dead in a few months. And when I leave here, the only thing tying me back to the university would be to take a class. I'm trying to add, not drop a class. Can you make an exception here?" And he said, "Yeah, okay, give me that form." And he signed it, handed it to me. I walked out of there and I turned it into an administrative office. They looked at the form and they're like, "How on earth did you make that happen? How did you get that guy to sign this form?" That's your secret sauce. Your unwillingness to budge when you see something, especially in your personal life, that's very, very important. Your health, your children, your mental health. Make that tough decision and stick up for yourself. Because in life, You don't get what you want. You get what you negotiate. Folks, go out there and get it. Thanks, I'm Rick Czaplewski.
We hired Rick to come in here and settle our greatest fears as project managers, which is negotiations. And he did a fantastic job. We loved his energy and the way he broke it down and helped us as project managers understand how to close the deal and how to be respectful in all aspects of negotiations.
It blew me away. I learned a ton about the neuroscience of negotiation. He's energetic, he's knowledgeable. I mean, hire this guy. He's unbelievable. Learned a lot, and I'll definitely come back to see him.
It was a lot of good information that I can take back and use as my job as a project manager. So I can't wait to take some of that back to use it.
The inflection, the way he presented, the excitement, the stories, you know, his cancer survivor and how he applied that into negotiating. It was a great tie-in, and it was a wonderful presentation.
Rick's session was awesome, and I actually come from a negotiating background, so I know that a lot of what he said is accurate, but it also gave me some new stuff to think about. And his approach with that framework and just different layers of getting to a good negotiation outcome, loved it.
Rick did a great job. Hire this guy, have him come in, talk to your organization, and really promote those negotiations. It's a win-win.